Do you like folk music? Are you interested in murder? Then boy, how do you do? I have just the thing for you, you strange goth cowboy. Hello everybody, welcome back to Meddling in Antiquity. My name is Teray, and today we're going to be covering American Murder Song. So I honestly think it's a damn shame that more people don't actually know about American Murder Song, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, the people who created it, Sar Hendelman and Terence Zdunich. Sar Hendelman, if you're a horror movie fan, you'll know both of them. If you're more a mainstream horror person, Sar Hendelman is the person who did the piano and worked on some of the music for Insidious. But I think more kind of like cult classic people will know him as the guy who composed the Devil's Carnival series. Terence Zdunich, if you are also a fan of the Devil's Carnival series, you will know as the devil himself. Or, if you're a Repo Genetic Opera man, he's the grave robber. So those are the two masterminds behind what American Murder Song is. So now let me tell you a little bit about what they make music about. American Murder Song is 4 EPs and 3 full albums of entirely original murder ballads. Yes, you heard that right. Entirely original murder ballads. So the idea and the concept behind American Murder Song is that there are these characters, Messrs. Storm and Tender, Mr. Storm, portrayed by Sar Hendelman, and Mr. Tender, played by Terence Zdunich, who are traveling in this thing called the Black Wagon, which is driven by Cain. And their job is to essentially chronicle the tales of every killer who has ever bore the mark of Cain, which in this particular imagination of it is a sideways A with an elongated slash through it on the left forearm that acts as an arrow pointing west. Because the whole thing it's very much old Western, which is why a lot of the ballads are more country or folk based, which I really like. I really enjoy them. I think it's such a really interesting concept, and it's a really cool way of kind of reimagining the idea and the curse of the Mark of Cain. I really like how this version of the Mark of Cain is done because it plays very well into all of the songs. It's threaded through everything that they do, and this kind of the slogan of all of these stories, all of the songs that are kind of they sing is follow the mark. So it is your job, their job as the storytellers to lead you through, but our job as the listeners to follow these stories. And one of my favorite things that I like, and I'll get into a little bit later, is that they have an entire album about the Donner Party. So let's kind of get into the breakdown of what I like about the music. I'll go through a couple of my favorite songs. I'll read a couple lines from the songs, and then I'll get into the analysis of 2 particular songs that are on my favorites list. So like I mentioned earlier, there are 4 EPs and 3 full albums. The EPs are in order: Dawn, Providence, The Reckoning, and Wake. And then the full albums are The Donner Party, Murder Ballads of 1816, The Year Without Summer, and The Killing Place. So let's kind of get into my favorite songs from the cycle that we have. So Murder Murder is one of my favorites, and that one is kind of the introduction to the idea of the mark, because the chorus is murder be thy name, out, out, murder be thy name. And the out, out idea I kind of take as an interpretation of Lady Macbeth's out, damned spot, because that's kind of one of the things that she repeats consistently through that monologue. And it's very much this idea of trying to get the blood off your hands, since this whole thing is killers all branded with the Mark of Cain. And we have Johnny, which is about what a lot of people have interpreted to be about a child who kills animals and small creatures and then buries them, and then they're eventually dug up. And that probably is one of my favorite choruses in the whole cycle. Well, one of them. And it's, where is quiet Quiet Johnny can't be saved. Where is quiet Johnny, quiet grave? Which kind of, it's very upbeat. A lot of the songs are very upbeat, and that's why I find them so fun to listen to, and why you kind of just, you want to put them on and you just want to vibe with the murder ballads, you know? Next we have Mary, which is probably my #1 favorite of everything. And that is about a young girl who accidentally kills her father after he tries to marry her off to a cousin who is much older than her, and she runs away with the family dog. And that one is it's so fun to listen to, and a lot of it is, there's a lot of wordplay in the song, and that's why I really appreciate the lyricism behind it. And the chorus for that one is, "Way, fiddle-I-ay, where is our Mary? Run, run away. Took to the Cumberland Road past May. Mary, Mary, come home, come home. Way, fiddle-I-ay, where is the parson? Come out and play. Dark is the road where the devils play. Mary, Mary, come home." And it very much, a lot of the songs are really fun, and they all take place in kind of a very various parts of kind of the eastern seaboard of the South, kind of moving up and across the West. So it's very much, the further you get into the cycle, the further west you get. And we have Sweet Rosalie, which is a song about a woman who goes absolutely crazy, and her lover, and his attempts to make sure that she doesn't get caught for doing the weird things like wearing her father's head, turning her neighbor's cat into a bonnet, you know, girl in the West things, yeah. Then there's Hail Columbia, which is kind of like a drinking song, and it's very fun. I really recommend listening to Hail Columbia. It's a very boisterous, upbeat song about people dying and the spirit of manifest destiny, essentially. That's what kind of threads through a lot of their songs. Like I said, the song cycle is kind of a tale of moving west, which is actually very similar to the themes I discussed in my Hadestown video 2 weeks ago. Kind of ironic, right? Very, very Western themed here. Then we have A Body on the Step, which is from Wake, Indiana Man, and I'm Always Walking to Somebody Else. A lot of these are songs that I picked because I really like them, or I'm using them as chapter names and inspiration for the Twilight fanfic I'm writing that's based on this entire thing. And I will link that if that is anybody's cup of tea. So Body on the Step is essentially a murder mystery song that lets you decipher who you think did it, who you think died, and why. The Indiana Man is about a priest moving his particular brand of godliness west, and I Am Always Walking as Somebody Else is just go listen to I Am Always Walking as Somebody Else. I want to get into the 2 songs that are about real people. Pretty Lavinia. So Pretty Lavinia is about a woman named Lavinia Fisher, who is believed by many people to have been the first female serial killer in the US. However, what's interesting about Lavinia is that there's no actual evidence that she really killed anyone at all. And let's kind of get into why that is. So Lavinia, I cannot tell you really anything about her because the entire what historians and what people know about her life started when she married her husband, John Fisher. There is no records of where she came from, who she is, if Lavinia was even her real name even. There's no evidence of her even existing before her marriage to John Fisher. And so together they ran an inn called the 6 Mile Wayfarer House. And John was actually a highway robber. So he was a highwayman. They were married for several years, and in that time, Lavinia is believed to have lured men into that she were staying at the Wayfarer house by either poisoning them or knocking them unconscious, robbing them for all they were worth, and then somehow disposing of the bodies. However, there's no actual evidence that she did this. There's no evidence at all that authorities could find when she was arrested and convicted. And to this day, there is still no evidence of whether she killed at all, and if she did, how many people she actually got away with killing. Well, she didn't really get away with it. So eventually, her and her husband were both caught, tried, and convicted of highway robbery and murder. And this is where it gets cool. This is where the legend started. So Lavinia Fisher, when she was sent to be executed, when her and her husband were taken to the gallows, she wore her wedding dress. Her full wedding dress to the gallows. She did not wear black. She wore her wedding dress. And when it came time for the hangman to put the noose around her neck, when she was asked for her last words, she said, "If anyone has a message to the devil, give it to me now, I'll deliver it." And then she jumped off the gallows and killed herself instead. That's metal as hell. Next, we have The Devil in Camp, which, if you were paying attention earlier, I mentioned that there is an entire album about various members of the Donner Party. And you might know this person's name. And the name that we're going to be discussing for this song in particular is Louis Keseberg, also known as the Donner Party Cannibal. So, getting into Keseberg's history, Keseberg was a German-Prussian man who joined up with the Donner Party with his wife and their children. Nobody on the journey really liked him. But what really set him apart is that eventually, when the Forlorn Hope Party got stuck up at Truckee Lake, eventually one of the members of the actual Donner family went missing, and when they went looking for her, they found Louis Keseberg in his cabin preparing human lungs and liver that were fresh. Keseberg initially denied having eaten her, but then eventually confessed that he did in fact harvest her lungs and liver to eat, but that she died of natural causes and he didn't murder her. Nobody believed him because they knew exactly how violent he had been with his own family and had no reason to believe that he wouldn't enact the same kind of violence to somebody else's. However, when he was finally taken out of the pass, he said that he had only ate people who were freshly dead. Not that anyone really believed him, and it is believed that Keseberg possibly killed and cannibalized up to 6 people, including several children. When he got out of the pass into Sacramento, because Truckee Lake is in fact here in California, the end of the Donner Party Pass comes out from Truckee Lake into Sacramento. So when Keseberg himself settled to Sacramento, he remarried. He bought a hotel, which actually gave rise to the rumor that he purchased a restaurant after leaving the pass. So he bought a hotel in 1851, which then burned down in 1852. And then in 1853, he bought a brewery, the Phoenix Brewery in Sutter's Fort, and he ran that from 1853 to 1861 until that was destroyed in a flood. And then eventually his descendants settled in the Napa Valley area of California and changed the last name. Because honestly, I don't blame them, because looking at what happened to him after he got out of that pass kind of seems like somebody was trying to punish him for exactly what he did there. Which is interesting and very similar to Lavinia Fisher. Nobody could prove that he actually did anything. So it's a very interesting dynamic. So you have these two people who no one can actually prove that they did anything, but they ended up being punished for it anyway. But yeah, so those are the real killers that I kind of wanted to focus on because I think their stories are the most interesting. And kind of let's get into final thoughts. Final thoughts on American Murder Song are if you are, if you're a country kid, if you're a goth kid, if you like weird murder stuff, if you're a goth country kid, if you're a cow goth, you should be listening to American Murder Song, because it will fit perfectly with your aesthetic. And I mean, I don't necessarily have the most goth-based aesthetic, but damn, do they make some good folk they make good folk music. And it's really cool to listen to this really interesting way to kind of explore the darker side of Western history. And I really appreciate that. And I feel like it flies so under the radar. And I don't really think that's fair to all the people involved in it who put their heart and souls into making this music and kind of doing what they do. And I feel like it's kind of time for them to have their moment, because there's been a lot of setbacks in regards to a lot of the things that Sarah and Terrence have done in the past. Mainly, if you're a Devil's Carnival fan, you'll know about the issues regarding the third and final film in the franchise. But if you're still a fan, if it's been a while since you've heard anything from them, then you've missed American Murder Song. And that's really unfortunate. And I really think that if you are someone who supports independent creators, people who are putting a lot of work into something really cool and really unique, check them out. It's a really worthwhile thing to listen to. You can just sit and you can vibe with it. It's good. That's really all I can say is American Murder Song is good. Damn good. Some damn fine murder ballads. So I'll go ahead and I'll link their channel. I'll link the music videos for the things that I'll mention in the little end cards, and then I will link their channel in the description below. American Murder Song. So this ends our second episode of Mark and Music. Don't forget to follow the mark, kids.